Heyo, I'm Blue, and today I'll show you how I pick colors like this. But before we get started, I'd like to give a big thank you to Skillshare for making today's video possible. I'm sure most of you are already familiar, but Skillshare has been a long-time supporter of this channel, and there's a very good reason why I keep working with them. If you haven't heard of it already, Skillshare is an amazing online learning community where you can explore, enroll, and even teach thousands of classes. Whether you're into photography, graphic design, music, cooking, business, marketing, or lifestyle, there's truly something for everyone. I even have my own class over at Skillshare about getting started with art as a beginner, and I'm working on a new one this year about staying focused and motivated to do art. If you've noticed, my sprites are moving more lately. That's thanks to some of the animation classes over on Skillshare that I've been taking recently. But animation means editing, and I'm terrible at that. So right now I'm learning with Intro to Motion Design 2025, simple and easy collage animation in After Effects by Hongshu Gao. I highly recommend it. So far it has been pretty easy to follow, so maybe my animations get a bit better in the future. So if you want to take care of yourself, try picking up a new creative hobby or enhancing a skill, now's the perfect time. As a special offer, Skillshare is giving away 1 month free to the first 500 viewers. To click the link in the description or scan this neat QR card here. Go grab the free month, it's super easy and actually fun to learn something new. Okay, now let's get into the video. I've made 2 other how I pick color videos, and every time I feel like I overcomplicate it and try to cram as much as possible into one. So this time I want to simplify it and show you how I pick colors for plain backgrounds that kind of look colorful like this. Nothing super fancy. First things first, a tiny bit of color theory is necessary. Don't worry, it's not too much. I've got a full video on color theory if you want to know more in detail, but here is what you'll need to understand. The color wheel is a really helpful tool for picking colors. It makes choosing colors that look good together way easier because the color wheel was designed for this purpose. There are 2 sections of the color wheel, the outside ring and the inner ring. The outside ring is called the hue. This is where you pick the actual color. And the inside part is where the saturation and values are. This is where you'll change how bright or desaturated or how dark a color will be. One of the color themes that I would like to teach you is harmonizing colors. I think I use this for most of my simple pieces like this. Harmonizing colors are really easy to understand. These are the colors right next to each other on the color wheel. So like the color blue harmonizes with the colors right next to it, purple and green. Now the way you'll use this is if you pick a base color on this hue range, you will use either one color to the right or one color to the left. And this will mean that these 2 colors will always harmonize with each other. Another thing to note when I'm picking base colors is I never use pure white or pure black. Instead, I will use a light peach or soft gray, yellow, or whichever base color it is for the whites. And for black or dark colors, I will use a purple or red or anything that's not pure black. I think it mutes a bit of the colors and I really like this less contrasted look that the colors here give me. Let's talk about base colors. These are the colors that you will lay out before you lay out shading or highlights or anything that will make the character look more in depth. When I'm picking base colors, I never use direct color picker from the reference. I always select colors based on what the color would look like to me. So if a character has, for example, green in their character design, I'm going to select a really bright yellow kind of green instead of the green that was on the reference because I know that this will suit my art better. To understand how I pick the base colors on what I like, I really like to stick to very warm colors, so I don't like to use very cold colors in my palettes. So for example with the green, I don't like to use green because it's on the colder side, so I will try and shift it to the redder, more warmer sides. And I will do this with every color. That includes the blacks and the whites. So always stick in this hue range when you're picking colors, if you want to achieve something like I do. Now that we've spoken about how I use hue, let me talk about how I use the middle part, so the saturation. For me, I like to keep my colors low contrast and more on the colorful side, so there's not a lot of super dark colors and super light colors. When I'm picking colors from the middle, I try and stick in this range. See, it's like a little triangle, and most of my colors will always stay in this range. The reason why I do this is because I feel like these colors harmonize really well with each other. They will always look good together because they're in a similar saturation range. I do this because if I use too saturated colors with the muted colors that I really like, it can look too brass. So you can tell even if like the color that I am picking is kind of very saturated, it's still not at the most saturated point. I don't like the contrast between these two colors together. I really like the muted, more colors that go together, harmonize well. This doesn't mean you can't do it, I'm just showing you how I do it. So those are the reasons why I do the things that I do. Now I am going to color this thing and I'm going to walk you through each step. There are more steps in this tutorial, obviously. This is just like the first half of it, but I will walk you through in detail how I am picking colors for this space. If you want to like draw it with me, I will have the line art link down below, and then you can, you know, color it with me and maybe you can like understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. So let's lay out the base colors first. I pick our skin tone and I am trying to stick into the more warm but slightly saturated colors, so I do want it to be like really bright, and her hue is just kind of gonna stay in this like warm upper corner for a bit until I get to the blue, of course. The most important thing that you should be paying attention here is the triangle I showed you in the saturation. See, even now I'm kind of like playing around to find like a good saturation that suits with everything else. Since this is an opposite color, I do want it to look really nice. If I was going to go in with like a really saturated color, it would look a bit odd. So just pay attention to like how this little triangle like moves. Next, let's talk about the shading colors. When shading, I have two colors that I use, one darker than the other. How I go about picking these two shading colors is I pick the base color up and then I shift the hue so the outer part towards where the purple is. Since I really like purple in my art, I always switch it to a bit more of the warmer side. So if it's yellow, I'm going to go more to the red-orange, but if it's green, I'm going to shift more to the blue colors because like it's leaning closer to purple. Then I grab the saturation and I shift that down just slightly, and then I add that to the base color. The second color will be a hue shift down. Now, how big the hue shift is depends on what I'm coloring. If I'm coloring something very main of the character, so like their hair or like something that stands out, I will do a bigger shift down because like that kind of makes the color really pop. But if it's more like just the basic kind of thing, so maybe like clothes or like a shoe, I will only shift the hue down slightly. So here are the two examples. This is one shifted a lot, there's a lot more color. This one shifted small. And then I shift the saturation down as well, so I make it a little bit darker. These will be the two colors that I use to shade, so each base color I will go in and pick these things. So how I add these colors is I put down the lighter base and then I put down the darker one, just to ensure that there's like a lot of depth in there. So some base colors I don't even use these shadings for, because I don't want the whole piece to be very shaded and complicated, so some base colors I kind of just leave. I tend to leave darker colors unshaded because I feel like they're already dark and they don't need anything else added to it. I always set my liner to multiply and then I set it to a purple or maroon. And then I pick the base color and I kind of go over the lines, so like you can tell that the skin is more red. I'm going with more red orange color over it just to make them blend better, so when I paint it, you know, it's easier. So sometimes the base colors aren't as vibrant as I'd like them to be, so for her case I thought her face needed more saturation, so I go in with a new layer. I pick a more saturated red or orange, and then I add that to the parts that I think would look nice, which is normally like cheeks or little hair pieces, and then I turn down the layer. So now I'll explain to you how I get this really uniform kind of look to my art. They kind of just, all the colors kind of blend together, and how I do this is I will pick a purple hue. So remember, we have been leaning towards the purple the whole time, but now we're going to lean fully into it. So I grab a saturated purple. Depending on the piece, I'll either choose a darker purple or a lighter purple, and I will start filling this into like the crevices. So I will add this purple color to each shading part that I've added, trying not to cover up the full thing because I still want the original colors there. I will normally add this in the darkest areas of the drawing or the furthest ways from the drawing. I then go into the layers and I turn down the opacity, and this kind of makes everything blend together. I love doing this. I've been doing it for a very long time. I feel like it adds like this really soft colors to the drawing. And so what I really like to do is if there's like an orange or peachy color, I will grab that and I will grab an airbrush and I'll kind of lightly trace over some of the colors just to have them kind of blend together for when I'm painting. So finally, all the colors are laid out. I really like it. So for the final touches, I will grab the airbrush and I will choose a peachy or orange or warm color. I'll make it bigger and then I will put it over the character's face or over the place of the character that I want people to look at. I will set this layer mode to overlay, turn down the opacity, and then I will decide if I want to do it again if it's not bright enough for me. Now for a little bit more extra details, I like to grab a bright red, so a saturated red, and then I will start outlining some of the pieces, so some of the line art, some of the colors, like where they kind of separate, and I will set that layer to overlay and turn down the opacity a bit, and I feel like this kind of just adds a little bit more depth to it. And I'm going to redo what I just explained, so I go in and I change some of the colors that I don't really like. See, I saw some of like the colors weren't as saturated as I wanted them to be, so the purple, I went in, added another layer, turned down the opacity, and I redid that with some of the base colors. To finalize the colors and make them look good, I will use something called a gradient map. A gradient map will change the values to a certain color. I think every art program has one of these. So I will grab the gradient maps and I'll kind of flip through them, change it to one that I think looks okay, and then I'll change the layer blending mode to suit it, and I'll just scroll through them until I find something I like. And I do this a couple of times with different gradient maps until it kind of suits what I'm wanting. I also do this with the color changing and color grades. Yeah, so I just play around with the color settings a little bit. And then finally, for the last touch, I like to add little aqua colors here and there, so I just kind of go crazy with them. And yeah, that's about it. It's really simple. Like, I do this when I'm feeling lazy and I don't want to like think too hard about the colors, because this is just kind of like go. Once you learn it, you just get used to it. Yeah, so thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you. Yeah, so this is the end of the video. I am going to talk now, so if you're not interested in that, you can feel free to leave. Yeah, I want to thank my channel members. Most of them were gifted, but it's really cool having you here. And I want to thank my Patreons, and I want to thank everybody's like fan art that I'm adding to the video. It kind of just reminded me of like old school YouTube. I don't know if anyone remembers how YouTubers used to put like their fan art on and stuff, so it's something like I would like to start doing. Yeah. As for like videos and stuff, I only have one more tutorial planned for this month, otherwise the rest are just going to be kind of story time chatting videos, because I feel like I really want to do that, but I probably won't completely stop the tutorials since I really quite enjoy doing them. If you want your fan art featured on the next video, I have a Discord down below where you can submit the fan art thing and I will play it here for you. It's really cool. I love these so much. Thank you to everyone that made fan art. Yeah, I have nothing more to say. Okay, you guys just have a lovely day. Bye!